Hello and welcome. This is Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow with Robin Ashby here on South Asia Global Television. In this programme, I'm going to talk about Christmas. Christmas is a festival in the Christian calendar, but it's celebrated by billions of people worldwide, whether they are Christians or not. It's a very odd thing, and it's become very secular. But why is it? Why do we have Christmas on the 25th of December each year? It was originally a religious festival. Most religious festivals are not on a fixed date. Ramadan, for instance, Easter, both of those big festivals to those major religions depends on the phase of the moon and is declared on an annual basis. But this festival comes out once a year on the 25th of December, which the more you think about it, the more unlikely it is for the event that it's supposedly celebrating. That event is the birth of a chap called Jesus, who many religions recognise as either a major prophet or as the Son of God. And that's a matter of faith. People have those faiths. But why the 25th of December, and what is it supposed to signify? Well, we need to look in a bit more detail about how it fixes with everything else. In the European, the British tradition, it's one of the quarter days. And these quarter days really are appropriations from what went before. There is a festival in the spring, which comes very close to the spring equinox. There's one in midsummer, which comes very close to the summer solstice. There's one in the autumn, which comes with the autumn equinox. And there is this Christmas, which is Christmas and the New Year, which is now, they're all tacked together now in modern culture, which are more or less the winter solstice. So, but why the 25th of December? Because the politicians, the Romans in particular, nearly 1700 years ago, decided that they were going to change their state religions, which were multiple gods, and they would go for one god, and the one god that they decided upon was the god of the Christians. It could easily have been a Mithras, the god of the Persians, whose life and festivals are in fact very similar to those of Christians. And indeed, many of those, in my view, were stolen by the early Christians to make them into a more acceptable religion, particularly to the Roman army, who were big supporters of Mithras. Indeed, here in Newcastle, very close by, on Hadrian's Wall, that I visited with you on other occasions, you can still find a shrine to Mithras. So, 25th of December, how does that work? Well, the story is that in a point in time, which is 0 Anno Domini, the year of our Lord in Latin, the Roman Emperor decided that all his citizens were going to be taxed. And to do that, they had to go to the place of their birth to register, so that they can be registered and taxed by the Roman Empire. So the story is that Jesus, who was not yet born at that point, his pregnant mother Mary, and his father, who was not his father because he was the Son of God really rather than the Son of Man, they had to go from where they lived at Nazareth, which is in Palestine, to Bethlehem. Why would they do that? Well, if you want to look back into the rabbinic traditions, the Bible, the Old Testament, the book that the three major religions all subscribe to, describes that the King of the Jews would be born in David's city, and David's city was Bethlehem. So for the story to fit, that this presumed Jewish prophet, in order to become the founder of this new religion and to be seen as the Son of God, had to go to the place that the Bible said that the King of the Jews, the Messiah, would be born, and that is the city of David, Bethlehem. So they had to get from Nazareth to Bethlehem, even though for the story to work, Mary, the mother of Jesus, had to be very pregnant at the time. So they set off, they travel, but the question one has to ask is, would this be in the middle of this Palestine winter, or Israel? These words are interchangeable in the story. It was 25th of December, which is the date that was used. In those times, and nowadays, the weather in that part of the world can be very bad. There can be snow on the ground and really not at all suitable for large numbers of people to be travelling. So why was it that was the date that the legend says it happened? Because in my view, it coincides with so many other festivals of rebirth, which you will find come with the winter solstice. So the couple arrive in this city of Bethlehem, and then there's a story of there no room at the inn, nowhere for them to stay, and so they have to spend the night in a stable. And then the baby is born, and the shepherds who are up in the hills looking after their sheep hear about this from an angel and come to worship this new God in his crib, which is presumably some sort of assemblage of hay rather than anything else, but being in a stable. They stay there for some time. Quite how is never actually recounted in the stories. In what the Christians call the New Testament, that's the various Bible stories. There are two different accounts in Matthew and Mark, and they don't actually tie up very well, except to accord with these ancient prophecies of what the King of the Jews would be. So he's born in a stable, and several things happen. One is that there's a star appears in the sky. What is this star? Is it a miracle? Is it a conjunction of the planets? Is it a comet? The debate rages on all of this. It could be any of those things. But wise men, magi, come from the east bearing gifts. And the gifts are gold, frankincense, and myrrh. We in the West really don't understand what frankincense and myrrh are, but once on a visit to India, I did actually manage to buy frankincense and myrrh and bring them home for my grandchildren to take to the Christmas celebrations that every school in the country has every year. So they come with the gold, frankincense and myrrh. But they think, we know this chap is going to be a famous, he's a god or a king or whatever. So they arrive not at the stable, but they arrive at the palace of the king of the Jews at the time, a chap called Herod. And they say, we've come to worship the new king. And he said, I don't know anything about this. So they go off and they follow the star again, and they come to the stable in Bethlehem, and there is the baby in the manger, the cattle feeder that it's lying in, and they worship and they give these gifts, and then they depart and leave the story forever. In the meantime, Herod, as king, he's very jealous of the possibility that there is a new king that's been born, and he doesn't know about it, not his son, and he decides to do anything about it. And the story is that he ordered every firstborn male baby to be killed. So we have the baby Jesus, who's been born in Bethlehem, in the city of David, and the existing king, who was a client of Rome. That's the way that they operated. They had some lands that they conquered and ruled directly, and some they ruled through client kings. Judea, Israel, Palestine, that whole area was under the control of this King Herod, and he ordered that the slaughter of the firstborn males, obviously, because they couldn't perceive the idea of having a queen, except married to a king, and so somehow the Holy Family got news of this, and they fled to Egypt and went into exile, and somehow or other, and it's not really recounted how this happened, they ended up back in Nazareth, in northern Judea, sometime later, where the baby Jesus was brought up by Joseph, his human father, who was a carpenter, and he learned to be a carpenter as well. And he went on to his mission of converting the Jews to his teachings. He, in my view, and very arguably must have been the case, he was a rabbi in the Jewish rabbinical tradition. And some time later, the appropriation into the new religion of Christianity came about. So we've got our baby Jesus born, and it's been decided in about the 3rd century by the Pope, who was the Bishop of Rome, and the Emperor, that there would be, as it were, an official birthday for the baby Jesus, and that would be 25th of December. Why the 25th of December? Because we know there are so many other festivals going on there at the time of the summer solstice. The main ones of those were the festival of Mithras, again born in humble beginnings, went on to a mission. He was the light god, and his celebrations, as I mentioned, run by the Roman army, were very similar to the sorts of things that happen at Christmas. So there are these various traditions, including there's a Persian one called Yelda, and Yelda celebration is a time when families come together for feasting, celebrations, poetry, special food made with fruit and nuts. Many of those things are now reflected in modern Christmas traditions. The poetry is reflected in Christmas carols, which are sung in churches and on television, and the fruit and nuts you see very frequently come in the Christmas cake and the Christmas pudding that are essential parts of any Christmas. But even this idea of the summer solstice, it goes back to prehistoric times. In England, you can find Stonehenge, which is a massive temple, for want of a better word, with huge stones that were brought 60, 70, 80 miles by manual labour only. There was no carts, there were no trucks, or any of that sort. And these things were set up on Salisbury Plain in a big circle, and on the summer solstice, the sunlight shines down to a particular point, an altar, and so that again is coincidental with this 25th of December idea of Christmas. So these traditions that we have, however, many of them are not old traditions at all. The centerpiece of any family home at Christmas time is the Christmas tree. Now, this is much more in the Nordic tradition, where the Christmas time, the winter solstice, was known as Yule, and we still have that reflected in the Yule log. The Yule log is no longer a big log that goes onto the fire, but is a rolled up cake covered in chocolate. But we still have it, and we still call it the Yule log. Many years ago, I was in Scandinavia, in Sweden, at this time, and there they have a Yule bock. The Yule bock is a very large reindeer who is built at Christmas time and is burnt at the New Year to welcome in the next year. And the Yule bock, the reindeer, again, that is one of the traditions of Christmas, which is how do the children get their presents? The fantasy is that they're brought by Father Christmas, who's also known as St. Nicholas in the German tradition. A man in a red coat who is on a sleigh which is towed by reindeer, and he goes all around the world in 24 hours delivering presents to every child. In the old tradition, he comes down the chimney. This fat old man comes down the chimney and leaves presents for the children. It's pretty unlikely, isn't it? But that is what small children are told, and they all believe it. This is actually aided by the United States, whose NORAD, their Northern Radar, every year puts online a tracker So you can tell where Santa is with his sleigh, and you can see it moving around the world, delivering presents from the Pacific Ocean and Australia and Japan, all across India and Pakistan, over the Middle East, and he ends up here and then goes on to America as he follows the sun around the world, delivering these billions and billions of presents. All very likely, the children lap it up and they love it until they get to the age of about 10, when they stop believing, but they still go along with the tradition because they like the idea of the presents, and they fear that if they say they don't believe in Father Christmas, then they won't get any presents. So that's when there's a Scandinavian impact on Christmas, and the Christmas tree. Interestingly, Norway sends Britain a Christmas tree every year to mark the aid that we gave to Norway during the Second World War. And indeed, a town within Norway also sends one to Newcastle. So we can walk out from here and we can go and see our own Christmas tree in Newcastle, marking the gratitude of these people for what happened 75 years ago. On our Christmas tree, we have decorations and candles of course are a fundamental part of any kind of winter celebration of whatever your religious tradition. People have candles because it's about the coming back of the light. You're at the time of the shortest day of the year. The sun is moving on in the Northern Hemisphere, and the days get longer and longer. And indeed, within a few days of this recording, there is the time of equivalence when the days and the nights in Britain are of exactly the same length. And that doesn't happen again until October. In other parts of the world, because of the aspect of the sun, that doesn't quite happen in the same way, but it happens here. We have our Christmas cards. Christmas cards, as a German idea, came over, like so many of our Christmas traditions, as a consequence of our Queen Victoria, who was the first Empress of India, by the way, marrying a German prince, Prince Albert. And he brought over a lot of ideas. Holly is another one. Holly is an evergreen, spiky plant with red berries, and which are made into wreaths, and they're used to decorate houses. He brought over a lot of ideas like that, including the Christmas card. And Christmas cards were very big for a very long time. They are now somewhat fading in less significance, partly because they're so expensive now and the cost of delivering them is so expensive, partly because of the advent of the internet, which enables people to send much more personal Christmas greetings. And many people, like me, actually write a family newsletter, which is sent out at Christmas time. So all the people that you're not going to see, the friends and the relatives that you're not going to see over Christmas, you tell them what's happened for the last year. For us older people, it's a time for competitive boasting about the achievements of our grandchildren. And I'm a sucker for that, like everybody else. So I mentioned earlier the Christmas carol, which is derived from the Persian winter solstice celebrations, where poetry was read. And I want to read you one of the very earliest Christmas carols that goes back to the 1400s. That's 500, 600 years ago. And it's only 3 lines. It's "Buvez bien toute la compagnie." That's an interesting line. It means everybody drink well. And it's in French, it's in Norman French, which of course is a throwback to the conquest of Britain by the Norman French 300 years earlier. And Norman French was still used extensively, including in this carol. "Buvez bien toute la compagnie, make good cheer and be right merry, and sing with us joyfully, Noel, Noel." Now, that pretty much sums up Christmas, which is, for the adults, is a time of family getting together, remembering the past, looking forward to the future, eating well, drinking well, and in the end quarrelling amongst yourselves and being happy that people go back to living their own lives. So we have many other Christmas carols, most of which celebrate this original Christmas story that I described. There are things like, once in royal David's city stood a lowly cattle shed, where a mother and her baby laid in a stable as their bed. So that again echoes this idea of Jesus being born in the city of David, and therefore as of royal descent. There's a way in a manger that talks very much about the sleeping of the baby in a stable. Hark the herald angels sing. There's much more spiritual about that one. This is surrounded by angels, the angels of heaven. We three kings of Orient are. That's we three kings from the Orient. This is celebrating the visit of the Magi from the east, which is presumably from Persia. And this is often subverted by younger children to we three kings of Orient are, one in a taxi, one in a car, one on a scooter, beeping his hooter, following yonder star. And all of these are on the basis that Jesus was the Messiah prophesied in the Old Testament. They retell the story, and everybody retells them every year, the source of which is so often forgotten. As far as people of the Christian faith are concerned, this is a very serious time of year when they are celebrating this rebirth story, and it's one of the major festivals of the Christian calendar. But so many people nowadays, it's a secular time. There are significant films are shown for the first time on Christmas Day, where the television broadcasters compete to get the largest audience share. And at the same time of year, because now Christmas and the New Year are really joined together in one long festival. The football season kicks off again. Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas Day, known because of servants used to be sent home to their parents for Christmas, for the day after Christmas Day. So they left the people in their big homes without servants for one day while I visited them. And it's Christmas. They were given Christmas boxes to take to their parents. The idea of looking after servants actually comes again from Mithras, where the feast there, the masters served the slaves with food, and indeed that tradition is still carried on. My father, who was an officer in the Royal Air Force, on Christmas Day he used to have to go into the barracks every Christmas Day to serve Christmas lunch to the men under his command. So that tradition even now is carried on for nearly 2,000 years. It's a time of merriment. It's a time of looking forward to the new year, to the coming back of the sun, to the coming of the spring, to the rebirth of the earth. And that tradition comes from so many different sources that nobody any longer understands the big context that almost every nation, every race has a stake in this. Even in Africa, there is a festival which is very similar to Christmas. And if we go to the Muslim traditions, the Hindu traditions, and all of those others, all of them are reflected in Christmas. And at the end of, the beginning of the Christmas season, we say to everybody, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And when we come to that, I wish that to you and your family. Enjoy that season before the coming of the spring and the better weather. This has been Robin Ashby, yesterday, today and tomorrow for South Asia Global Television.